My guest on the show today was Matt Barnett. Now, Matt is an expert chemist and the owner of Bonetti Explosives, an Impresario leadership team building camp. Bonetti Explosives provides the transition of demilitarizing munitions debris to civilian recycling and has secured contracts with both the government and NASA, while Impresario is an off-grid camp in West Texas that hosts military-themed exercises and challenges and has hosted people like Navy Seals and Green Berets. So, how did you get into the explosives career?
Oh, well, my dad taught, at the very beginning, my dad taught me how to make black powder when I was 7 years old. And so I just got interested in explosives as a kid. And yeah, basically I learned how to read by reading encyclopedias and information about how black powder was made and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I started looking into how to acquire commercial explosives. And then when I was 14, I told my dad, I said, "Hey, this is how you get explosives. You got to call this phone number. You talk to these guys. You tell them this and that." My dad, he didn't know anything about it. He used to work when he used to make rockets when he was a kid, and then he went to work for NASA after that. And so he had been around some explosives, but that was years before. So he ended up calling, and when I was 14 years old, they got me dynamite for the first time. And then they would give me the dynamite, and I'd go to the creek and I would shoot it with my rifle to set it off because I didn't have blasting caps. And so we several weeks later, we made another trip back to the depot and picked up detonators, and then I was off and running. And then I really hated school. It's not that I wasn't okay in school. It's just I hated sitting there all day doing that stuff. So the only thing I could think about when my parents said, "Hey, you need to go to college," is like, well, I guess chemistry, because I like making explosives. And so I went to Texas A&M and I got my degree in chemistry. And then after that, I ended up working for the oil field for a while as a wireline engineer. And that lifestyle just didn't jive for me at all. Corporate, you were always on call, and it was very stressful, and it was a lot to do with computers, which I'm not gonna say I hate computers, but I'm not really great with computers. And so I actually found out, long story real short, but I found out about a school at Texas A&M that you could take where you could get certified to go and help the military destroy military ordnance. And so I had actually bought some property on an island near Vieques, what's called Vieques, Puerto Rico, and it used to be a bombing range. And so they in 2003 they shut it down and they started doing the cleanup. Well, this school is where you would go get certified to help do jobs like that. And I was like, well, crap, I already got land there. So I ended up working there for 2 years, cleaning up all the bombs and blowing them up. And in that time, I learned that they were using really crappy explosives to blow the bombs up. And there wasn't a lot of places to go with the scrap metal to recycle. So in 2007, I started Bonetti Explosives, where I manufactured explosives specific for that industry. And then I offered metal recycling of all that ordnance scrap metal. And then I also offered training with my product. So I do products, training, disposal. And through a three-prong attack, that's how I went at that industry. And because I actually physically worked in that industry and knew the people, it was easy to get the connections. I just went to my old bosses and I said, "Here's my permits, here's my licenses, here's my price. I'm going to beat anybody out there." And so that's how I got started.
That's awesome that you were working in this field and then you saw the problem and attacked the problem. That's awesome. And I like how you said in school that you just couldn't sit there and just focus on school. And I feel like, yeah, if you're out blowing stuff up all day and then you got to go sit there and get told little math problems and stuff, you're like, what? I want to go blow stuff up. Come on. So
Yeah,
that's funny.
right.
So is there a lot of people in your industry doing what you do, or is it kind of a very niche thing?
Well, there's a lot of people in this industry, but um, most people pick one thing and focus on it. And so there's people that are real experts at manufacturing of explosives. And there are people that are real experts of doing pyrotechnics and, defense contractors and things of that sort. What I do is I always say I'm the Forrest Gump of explosives because I've passed through some pretty big places and witnessed some things in the world of explosives, but they're all different. An example would be I've done some work for NASA with rockets. I've done some disposal stuff of chopping up ordnance for Boeing. I did the big explosion for Mr. Beast on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So I had my own Discovery Channel TV show for a while. So I've kind of been all over the place. And what I found is that I'm good at, you have to figure out what you're good at, because this is a heck of a profession to just be half-ass in. You might not last that long. So what I do is I make sure that I'm really comfortable with what I'm working on, whether I'm manufacturing an explosive or doing a pyrotechnic shot. But because I have dabbled in a little bit of everything, I know people in all these parts. And so I'll reach out to those experts and I'll bring them onto jobs. And so if you need an expert pyrotechnician for a movie, well, I know the guy, but I also know the explosives that would be best for that. But he knows the application of it for film. And so we work together as a team. If you want to get a new product to market, I have the DOT inspector who actually does the DOT report, but I provide the land and the testing and the actual handling of the explosives because I'm comfortable with that. So I would say there's very few people that do what I do, although there's a lot of people in this industry. They're not really connected with that thread. So I'm kind of that, I don't want to say jack of all trades. I'm more like a Henry Ford. I've got a person's name and a button on my desk for everything that needs to be done.
I think that's the best way to approach it too. That's the true entrepreneurial way, because there's only so much you can do as a single person. But when you have people that you can call on and rely on to do little bits and pieces of a job, that's awesome, man, that you're able to do that and been able to do that. It's awesome.
It's worked out. Nobody can do everything by themselves. That's just the ego talking. And you got to lay it down. And when you get criticized and you fail, one of the hardest lessons has been to actually enjoy that moment and say, hey, this is a great opportunity to grow. And the shame will fade in time, but the lesson won't if you allow yourself to learn it. It's one of the hardest things to swallow, but it pays off great.
What do you think was your biggest failure in your career?
Oh, God, I fail all the time. I don't know that there's one. I don't feel like there's one big failure. There's been, because I don't really let them dwell. I don't dwell on them.
Right.
I fail all the time, and then I modify. And for instance, okay, we're working on an avalanche charge. This is a great example. The avalanche explosives, there's basically two types. You have cast explosives, which are very fast. They're about 25,000 feet per second, so they offer a good crack. Turns out that the guys on the eastern side of the Rockies, that's generally what they want for that icy snow. On the western Rockies, they want more of a heave, and so they use a lot of emulsion explosive. And that's not 100% across the board, but it's just the vibe. Well, these explosives could be made cheaper, and they could be made more environmentally friendly. And so I set out to produce a product for that. And I came up with it. Turns out that was one of the chemicals that's involved with it really wasn't that great for California. Hell, in California, it's hard to buy shoes because everything's illegal over there. So I modified that formula to be good across the board in every state. But then because of the war in Ukraine, one of our ingredients for that material, we just can't get it. And so, I guess that's a failure. But it's more of just, well, I have to shift direction. But one of the positive things that came from that was because my partner, he said, hey, look, we need to get you a social media presence. I know you're not big on social media, but you need to start doing this because people in the ski industry, they are. And when we show up to a site, I want them to know who you are. So he got a manager for me out of Austin, and she runs all my social media. I do a couple of videos. What you see day to day on my Instagram, that's just tiny little snippets of what I'm doing. Most of the stuff I can't film because of proprietary, or I've signed an NDA with a client, or it's the government, and I'm just not going to put that stuff up. So, I started doing this stuff for her, and lo and behold, it took off. And so that's a great example of a failure hit. And I just moved, I just moved. Like when a baby is learning to walk and they fall, they don't dwell on that fall. They just get up and they try again. They try again because they're on a mission to walk, right? And that's just the process along the way. So wasting time crying about it is just that, a waste.
Yeah, I like your mindset on that. I agree with that completely. Just something happens, don't look at it as a failure, look at it as a lesson and learn from it. So yeah, there's no other way. If you're gonna make it, that's what you got to do. So
That's it, man.
yeah. What's your approach to social media? I know you said you have a manager, but I'm sure you know some of how she's wanting to do things. What's your guys' approach to it? Because you have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 158,000 on Instagram right now.
159 as of this morning. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's a pretty big number. So what's your guys' approach to that?
Well, I didn't have a clue. And I like, I appreciate you asking me on your podcast here. I like talking to people. I'll talk to
Yeah.
anybody. And my approach was right out the gate being open and talking about explosives, but more talking about this. I love talking to people that want to start a business, that want to change their life, that want to grow. That's really where my passion is. But she told me, she's like, no, our approach is going to be this. It's going to be 30 seconds or less. It's going to be you talking about the stuff you use in your work, and it's going to be showing explosions. She's like, that's it. Keep it simple. Nobody, and she said something that was very true and harsh, but true. She's like, no one cares what you have to say until they care about who you are.
Yeah.
And she's like, in time, if this gets bigger, if it grows, then people are invested in you and will start to introduce some of your life and your thoughts and what you believe. And this is a great opportunity to do it on a podcast. But she was right. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it concise, and just be consistent. Kind of like working out. Like, just keep it the same, that you do it every single day. People
Right.
know what they're going to expect. Because if you spread it real thin, people are like, well, I don't really know what this guy is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very true approach, is it's like people don't really care until you give them the value to care. So, and I feel like people are fascinated with explosions. So that is
Yeah.
the right approach. Like people will watch, I mean, you said you worked with Mr. Beast, and why did Mr. Beast put an explosion in his video? It's like because people like explosions. So
Yeah.
yeah, to really focus on that and then focus on the sciencey side behind it, which is very fascinating, at least to me. And I know there's millions of other people that find that fascinating. That is definitely the best approach. And then as you're growing and now you're at 159,000 followers, doing a podcast like this, and then more in the future where you can talk in depth and talk about who you are, how you got started, and everything like that, is definitely the best approach. I feel. So
Yeah.
how many
So
times are you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just curious, tell me a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I started out like pretty much the basic teenager. I was posting gaming videos during COVID. And so from there, I went and got this job working in a warehouse. And my dad was working there too. And he would tell just funny jokes. He'd make people laugh. He was the class clown, essentially. And so someone was like, hey, why don't you do this on social media? A lot of people do it. And so I already had the background of social media. He was funny. We combined that and we ran with it. And we started out, and our jokes and stuff were real basic and monotone and real boring. But we evolved it as it got better and more views, and learned from all the comments calling us bad actors and everything. So we got pretty good at taking just a basic dad joke and turn it into a full-on skit. And so now we do anywhere from 8 to 12 videos a day of just jokes. We post a ton of jokes every day and get a bunch of views for it. And so me personally, I know that knowledge is a very important thing to me, as I want to talk to people. Basically what you said is just talking to people is very fascinating to me. So I said, okay, well, what do I have to offer where I can talk to people that maybe I shouldn't really be able to talk to, because I'm only 20 years old, and I know that in the world you have to have something in order to talk to people that are important most of the time. And so I was like, well, I have attention. I have attention to my name because we have 1.7 million followers across all platforms. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start a show, and I'm going to use my following on this other channel to get people interested in talking to me. And that's what I've done. And I've interviewed, I think, about 24 people now, and it's growing. So that's my
Awesome. Well, it's great. You might be 20, but man, you're off to a great start.
approach. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely fascinating to be able to talk to people that, like, I told this to someone else, is podcasting, I think, is the ultimate hack to talking to people and networking. Because I mean, the analogy I gave is, it's like, okay, if you want to talk to a billionaire, most of the time you have to be a millionaire. You have to
Yeah.
be some value source to that person in order to talk to them. But in the attention economy that we're living in today, it's like you don't have to be a millionaire to talk to them. You just have to have attention. And if you
Yeah.
can focus attention, you can talk to these higher people, and then that can give you a jump up in life. And, networking, like you explained with how you run your business and how you're able to become a Henry Ford of such. It's network is a very important thing. And so having all these people online and having all these different people that you can talk to and be like, hey, so I know you had this experience, what should I do, because I'm going through something similar. And just having all these different things is, like, I think, golden, especially since I am so young and I have this time, and I can make these connections now because I don't have a lot of responsibilities, so I can sit online all day and just work, 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 work. So
Mhm.
that's been my approach to it, and I think I'm in the right direction, like you said.
Oh, yeah, that definitely is there. And what I find too, you said something interesting. You said, hey, if you want to talk to a billionaire, you got to be a millionaire, and so on and so forth. I will have some of the seemingly most I'm not gonna say dead end, but just small projects come to me that I'll say yes to sometimes because I like the people, you know,
Yeah.
and you never know what a mustard seed will grow. You
Right.
really don't. And a prime example of that is in my earlier days, we're talking over 10 years ago, I would have YouTubers come to me and they would have like a small little channel and they're like, hey, we want to blow up a phone. And it was Gizmo Slip. And Gizmo Slip kind of turned up kind of big. But in his earlier days, he would just buy a brand new iPhone, talk all about it, destroy one epically and then give one away. Well, he found out because his mom gardened with my wife that I blow stuff up. So I started doing that for him, and it got out there on YouTube, and I would do it for free. I would give all the explosives away and the time and everything, just help these guys out, helping guys out. And then Zombie Go Boom reached out to me and they're like, hey, we got these anatomically correct heads and we want to blow them up. And they did this whole deal with Crazy Russian Hacker and Adam Chomsky. I don't know. There was Film Riot came out one time. Like all these names, I didn't know who they were. I wasn't a YouTube guy, but I was like, hey, free explosives for all you guys, just help y'all out. Didn't expect anything to happen.
Right.
Lo and behold, Discovery Channel found me because of those videos, and I
Okay.
got a TV show out of it. So,
Awesome.
I say turn a lot of stuff loose too. Obviously, use discernment if it looks like a bad. I mean, if some nefarious characters came to me and I could tell they wanted to build weapons,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, no, I'm probably not going to give you the time of day. But if you're an aspiring uh, special effects guy and you want to try something with film or whatever, man, I don't have a problem just helping people out. And, because people helped me, a lot of people helped me. I can feel that debt for sure every day. And so when I see that come around, a little voice back in my head goes, pay this back. Something may or may not come from it, but you're having a great day either way.
Yeah. That's awesome that you just are willing to help people out and stuff like that, and give people a little boost, because there's not a whole lot of that in the world today. And it's like, if you're starting out as, say, an entrepreneur, or starting out as a special effects guy and something like that, it's hard to get your hands on the high end stuff because you don't have anything. You have
No,
nothing, nothing. So for somebody in your position to just go, yeah, I'll help you. It's like, whoa, like you will feel a debt of gratitude to that person. And like you said, it's like the blessing comes back to get you. It's gonna come back. So
always.
yeah. So we've kind of followed a similar practice. I mean, way less I would say, impactful in our industry because we just tell haha funny jokes. You're working with explosives, much more serious. But we will work with content creators that are much smaller than us. And for example, there was this guy that I actually interviewed. And then I said, hey, well, we have this series of videos. Do you want to collab on one of them? He's like, well, heck yeah, man. And so we brought him on and collabed. And so I'd say his average video got between 3 to 8,000 views. He had a few that would blow up and stuff, but 3 to 8,000 with his average. And so this video got to, I haven't checked it in a while, but it's probably 1 million plus by now. And I think his top video. And so he's like ecstatic about it. You know, he has, at the time he had 17,000 followers. We had 680,000 or something like that. And so he's like, whoa, this is huge. And he gained hundreds of followers from that video alone. So just helping people out and stuff, I think, is big. And it's like, you don't expect anything back, but something might come back. So, and that's not what it's always about. It's just helping people is always fun and it's always nice. And it does make you feel good personally.
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah. It makes you feel good. But sometimes, here's the thing, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes I'm crunched for time. I got sweat running down my face because the weather here sucks. And I mean, half my videos, I've got the Batman emblem because the hair on my chest is the only thing keeping the sweat off of it. And it's just like, you know, I'm sitting here thinking about money. I got to get this job done in this time. And here's this kid that can offer me nothing. Yeah. And I'm squeezing this in to get it done. And, you know, at the, and I know in the back of my head, I'm like, this is probably not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it might change their life. You know, yeah. There may be a course that day that changed just a half a degree. And 20 years later, they're somewhere better off because of that day. And you don't know. You don't know. And so, you know, I was never in the military. I never served. I was never a volunteer fireman or anything like that. And so to me, that's an opportunity working with where I'm at to serve in a way, on a very impactful way, you know, a very intimate way that I think is going to leave an impression. So I think it's effective.
Yeah. And it's like your time gets so valuable, like you're saying, and you're stressing over other things and you're like, this isn't going to go anywhere probably, but it's like just fitting it in. And I think personally, I always try to follow the thing of volume, just doing a bunch of different things, just doing work, like raw action, just do stuff. Yeah. And I think that's always the best. And so when you're doing a bunch of different things and giving people opportunities, it's like, it might not be anything, but it's going to make you feel good. And like you said, you might change their life, and completely down the road in 20 years might be completely different because of you. So I think that's definitely worth it. So how has social media impacted your business?
Well, believe it or not, it's still early. I started this campaign in January. Well, really February. It didn't even start until February 1st, I think. So, you know, it's been rolling for about 8 months, and it really has not impacted my business very much. I've made a few sales of product because some government entities have seen my videos and they order my product. It's always funny. The comments are on there like, oh, the ATF is going to kick this guy's door down. I'm like, yeah, and place another order. They're like my customer, you know. All the government agencies you can think of buy my products. So, but you know, that world, they already know who I am. And so I already had that ahead of time. They're not out on Instagram looking for suppliers. If anything, they're looking for targets. But it has helped with fringe opportunities such as this, you know, somebody coming in and saying, hey, I want to do a podcast with you, which is where I believe it's going to go. I think it's really important for you to set your goal, set your hook, and then say yes to the things that come that facilitate that. And don't worry about the plan. I mean, planning will kill stuff. People are over planning and they want to wait till something's perfect to launch. And my videos suck, literally. I mean, I take a phone and I go, hey, I got a 40 millimeter around here. I'm going to launch it. Pow, I shoot it and I go back to work. And I've got friends that want to make sure they're wearing the right clothes. They want to make sure the lighting is right and the mic, and they haven't done anything. So it's about action. You know, it's about moving. Um, I don't know. I got off on that and I forgot what the hell you said.
You were talking about how where you think social media is going to go.
Oh yeah, and so the social media I think is going to help me get to my leadership camp. That's what I want. I built this big facility out in West Texas. I bought like 1,300 acres of land. It was raw land in the middle of nowhere. So I took an F-16 hangar and I set it up out there. I turned it into a 2-story lodge, all off grid, over 100 giant solar panels, all water catchment. I brought out chefs. I've got a tank and brought out Humvees. We got uniforms for everybody, and I bring out Navy SEALs and Green Berets, and we do this like leadership training thing. Not where we're screaming and hollering at you, but we're building a connection, and we're teaching people how to run a mortar team, how to use the grenade launcher, how to do demo, land navigation, first aid, desert survival, concealment, like basically complicated hide and go seek.
Yeah.
And but at night, I bring in guest speakers, entrepreneurs. I had the first woman to ever go through EOD school come out and talk. And these people, you know the old saying, you don't know what you don't know. There's many people out there that just don't have a clue how life can be. And so I want to get them out there. I want to connect with them. And the explosives in the military theme is really just a backbone. It's like a bait, it's something cool, it's something different. But it's taken a lot of non-military people, such as myself, although I kind of grew up with this stuff. But for people that haven't been around, it's something new and it gets them out of their comfort zone.
Mhm.
And so it requires them to like work with something in a very controlled manner. And so it's safely done, but there's that element of danger that really gets their attention. They have to work together as a team. And then at night, I bring out these guest speakers and then we break them off in small groups. And that right there is where I see my purpose is when I see those small groups. I'm off in the shadows. I'm just watching, I'm just there. And you see guys breaking down, open up to each other and talk about their goals, their lives, what's important to them. And you can see them lining things out and changing. And that's it. And it's weird because, yeah, it makes me feel good, but that's not why I do it. It's weird. Why do you eat? I guess because your body needs it, right? Why do you breathe? Because that's what you need. Why do you want to do something like that? Because I think I've surrendered that that's just what I'm supposed to do,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense, and
No,
it may make money and it may never make any money. I don't know, but I feel like social media is guiding it in that direction. And all these serendipitous things have happened that brought me to it.
that's awesome. So how did that get started? Well, how did that pop up in your brain? It's just that you just knew you had to do something like that, or
Well, I like public speaking. And I would get asked by the local high school sometimes to come over and talk to classes. And I noticed the school would let me bring in grenades and mortars and guns. Probably one of the only people in America that gets to do that. But
yeah.
I would bring this stuff in and set it up at the front of the class. And I found that when I would talk about the bombs, the grenades, and the guns, about 15% of the class was sitting there with their head down. They wouldn't even look up. They were just checked out, right?
Mhm.
But when I talked about living my dreams, when I talked about overcoming my problems, when I talked about how we are all the same and no, we're not all at the same place, you're right. Oh, well, you started out with an advantage. Yep. I had an advantage, and somewhere you have an advantage. We all have advantages, disadvantages. But at the end of the day, when you die on that day, the only person responsible for how that whole adventure turned out is you. When I started talking like that, there wasn't a head down on the table, and everybody paid attention. And that did something. And I was like, hey, if we're gonna make the world a better place, where do I fit in? If I'm gonna make the world a better place, this is somewhere where I'm seeing effect. It isn't how I set out. I just was following explosives. That was my passion. But explosives, they're great, but they satisfy me. This did a greater good. And apparently I was kind of good at it. And so I started following that. And I was like, how can I incorporate the thing that I love and the thing that I'm good at? And I was like, you know what? A leadership camp where we bring people out and we blow stuff up. They get to see that. But the core reason for being there is the betterment of their life. That's a win-win
It
all the way
is.
around.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. You said you bring out like SEALs and Green Beret and all
Yeah.
these awesome people. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
But what I tell them is they spent their life becoming the best of the best, right? The Navy SEALs, some of them that are come out are still active. You can't even take a picture of these guys.
Mm,
Um, and I tell them, I was like, guys, you spent so much time becoming the best, and I spent so much time building a facility and making a platform. We come together as what a true team should be. You are an expert at what you do. I know how to shoot. I can shoot pretty good. I ain't a Navy SEAL. And Navy SEALs, they're the best, right? But they may not own the land or have the facility
right.
or even have the platform that I have. So let's come together and do the greatest good. And when you build a team like that, that is the definition of teamwork.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome that you're doing that for them, man, and that you have a trust with the government and the military that they will take these active Navy SEALs and these active guys and take them out to your place and let them work out there. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
well,
really cool.
it's personal relationships. I don't go to the government and say, "Hey, you got some SEALs I can rent." I just know these guys, and they
Right.
believe in what I'm doing, and they can't have photographs of them.
Right.
Some of them that are retired or out, yeah, of course, you can take a picture with them or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So, what does a average day in the life for you look like right now?
So I wake up about 7 o'clock in the morning. I work out, and while I work out, I listen to poetry. Believe it or not, I really like Rudyard Kipling, and there's a thing on YouTube called Red Frost Motivation. I'll listen to that. There's a lot of different poems, and I'll listen to Jordan Peterson, and I'll listen to Dan Pena. Dan Pena scream and holler and call me a little bitch, and uh, but it's okay because I'm there to get some information out of it, and it
Right.
helps you process it. So then after I work out, I start checking emails about 8 o'clock in the morning. Those start coming in, and I'll usually have one or two major goals for that day, and then I leave room for everything to show up because believe me, it shows up. My employees get in around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we kind of have a meeting and line out on what they're doing. And then usually I work until about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then I'll break and have dinner with my family and call it a day. Now I live where I work, so I see my kids throughout the day. So I'll
Yeah.
play with my kids for 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm back in my lab working, or they'll come in and pass and see me. So I really that's usually my day. I usually stay within a 5 square mile area, blowing stuff up, testing, manufacturing, checking emails, and then running with leads that come in.
Yeah. Awesome. I feel like that's what a lot of very successful people do is just stay in their little area. They're they're in their place because everything is set up the way they like and it's their life. They have it set up how they like. So
Yeah.
that's I feel like that's a pretty good system to do that in. So one last question for you before I let you go is if you had one piece of advice to anybody trying to get started in pursuing their dream or their passion, what would it be?
Take as much time as you need, but take some quiet time and picture where you want to go, like all the way to the top, and then picture what would be past that. And I mean, really sit with it in a quiet moment so that you feel it, so that you're there. If you really think it's a bunch of material bullshit, Lamborghinis and all this kind of stuff, go ahead and feel it. And you'll find, if you're true with yourself, you'll find that there's still a void. I promise you that. But sit and think about what a full life would be. Write it down, picture it every day, and start doing the things today that person would do. If it's getting up every day and working out and eating right, then start doing that today. It doesn't take any money to do that. Start right now being that person, and then start watching. And I promise you, you've heard this crap 1,000 times, but it is freaking true. Once you do that, you will see. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, but you will see, if you keep your eyes open, opportunities that are little stair steps going in that direction, like freaking road signs. Follow them every time. And just like working out, just like running, just like studying, you may not see the change every day, but a year later, you're going to look back and you're like, wow, I'm well on my way. And remember, the doctor that's studying to be a doctor when he's in college, if you extrapolate that out in time, he is a doctor, right? In 20 years, he's a doctor. So when he's in college, he's still a doctor. He's just a doctor in learning. Okay. So you are that person already, but an oak tree didn't just pop up as an oak tree overnight. It started as an acorn and it grew. So know in your head, you are that person. You are there. You're just in the process of growing into it, and follow those road signs. That's what I would say.
That's awesome. I love that, Matt. It's awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Man. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, buddy. You too. Take care.
You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.